And we're on. Okay, subject pronouns, chicos. We're going to go back and talk about some English grammar before we get started today. So we're going to talk about, first of all, what in the world subject pronouns even means, because probably I put this up here. How many of you guys, by the way, you're not on the video, so don't worry, but just as a show of hands, how many of you guys are not quite sure that you could define right now what subject pronouns means? That you couldn't probably put it in a sentence. Okay, good. We're all starting from the same place then. That's great. Okay? So let's break down a little bit what subject pronouns are going to mean, okay? First of all, we want to talk about what does subject mean. When you're talking about like grammar, what does subject mean? I'm not talking about like subject as in math, science, English, social studies. I'm talking about like the subject of a sentence, okay? For instance, in a sentence like this in English, and you don't have to write this down, I'm just going to type it out for you. What is the subject of this sentence? Ian hits the ball. What do you think the subject is, chicos? It is Ian, okay? You're right. So, Ian is the subject of that sentence. What if I said, I like ice cream? What's the subject? I is the subject. What if I said, Stephanie is a cheerleader? Stephanie would be the subject of the sentence, okay? So, the subject of the sentence, what does the subject do in the sentence? The subject
tells who it's about?
Yeah, it tells who it's about. The subject tells who does the action, okay? So the subject and verb are always going to be linked to the sentence because the subject is the person that does the verb, such as Ian hits the ball. Stephanie is a cheerleader, okay? Hits and is are both verbs. The subject tells who's doing it, okay? Who is being the cheerleader while Stephanie is. Who is hitting the ball while Ian is, okay? So the subject is the person that, or the thing. It doesn't have to necessarily be a person. It can also be a thing. The subject tells who does the action. Could you shut the door by any chance, Leah? Gracias. Okay? Then we're also going to talk about what is a pronoun. What in the world is a pronoun? Does anybody remember from way back when you used to learn what pronouns were about, and now you might have forgotten, but that's okay because we're going to talk about it?
I think I know what a pronoun is. No, isn't that right? I don't remember, but I remember being a play about it.
Okay.
Isn't it like a noun that takes the place of a proper noun?
It's a thing, it takes the place of a noun. We'll make it a little bit more simple than that. It takes the place of a noun, okay? So, for instance, I might be telling a story and I might be saying, Jeremy this, Jeremy that, Jeremy does this, Jeremy does that, Jeremy, 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 Jeremy. You guys are going to get really sick and tired of me saying at the beginning of every sentence, Jeremy. What are you going to say instead, chicos? He, okay? So he is a pronoun. It replaces Jeremy, okay? And also, it doesn't have to be a proper noun, okay? Jeremy is a proper noun, right? Jeremy is somebody's name. But you could also say the boy, okay? The boy does this, the boy does that, the boy, the boy, the boy. Eventually, you're probably going to start saying what instead of the boy? He, okay? So an example of a pronoun in Spanish is he. What are some other pronouns in Spanish? Or in English, I'm sorry, I keep on saying Spanish, I mean English. Okay, she, okay, so some subject pronouns in English are he, she, I, you, we is another one. Him and he are the same. They, us and we are kind of the same. The only other one that I'm kind of thinking of before we get into inanimate objects is what if I'm talking to like you and you? What do we call that subject pronoun? Like you're addressing a group of people. No, that's if you're talking about a group of people. You guys is what we say up here in the north. Down south they say y'all. Okay. I have friends from Louisiana who hate it when I say you guys. As a matter of fact, my friend Steven is going to come visit us next month. My husband and I, he's a really good friend of ours. He's from Louisiana, and he absolutely hates the sentence, hey, do you guys want a pop? Because first of all, it's not you guys, it's y'all. And it's not pop, it's Coke, okay? If you ever go down to Louisiana or somewhere else down south, not everywhere down south, but a lot of country or states down south, instead of pop, it's Coke. So if I ask Liz if she wants a Coke, and she says yes, then I'll follow up with the question, well, what kind of Coke do you want? There's only one type of Coke up here, and it's Coca-Cola Classic, okay? Down there they have orange Coke, grape Coke. It's all just Coke is a word for them for pop, okay? So they kind of took the Coca-Cola Classic and they made it everything down there. So, those are all the subject pronouns that I can think of in English, except for, we could also add in a couple of other ones, which are inanimate objects. Like, instead of talking about the fan that I tripped over yesterday, the fan, what am I eventually going to call this? It, okay? Or what if it's plural?
It's
Those probably is the word. Yeah, those. Okay? So which ones up here are singular subjects? And which ones are plural subjects?
he, she,
He, she are singular. How many people are involved or how many things? One. Okay, so he, she, what else? I, you,
It.
it. Okay? Which ones are plural subjects?
we,
You guys, we,
y'all,
they,
those.
y'all, those. Very good, okay? We, they, you guys, y'all, those, okay? Those are all plural subjects. So what's the difference between singular and plural subjects? How many people or things are involved in a singular subject?
One.
One. How many things are involved in a plural
More than one.
subject? More than one, okay? Bien? And then the last question that I have for you guys is what does first, second, and third person mean?
I like talking in first person.
You like to talk in the third person?
First person.
In the first person. Most of us do talk in the first person. Okay? First person means what? I. Okay, if you ever read a book and it's narrated like this, I got up in the morning and I got a shower, or I got in the shower and then I got dressed and I did my hair and then I went to school and then I taught Spanish. That is in the first person, okay? Who is involved when you talk about the first person?
Just you.
I am involved, okay? I am involved. So if you talk in the first person, I'm involved, okay? I in the first person. Second person, I can't really make a book analogy because so few books are written in the second person. However, when I was in elementary school, you guys probably watched this TV show, maybe this might have been a little bit before your time, but Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? Did any of you guys ever watch that? I had the book. This is how the book was written. The book was written in second person. And this is what it sounded like. The book was like, you get a call from your agent in Russia, and they tell you that the Eiffel Tower has been stolen in Paris. So you hop on the next plane to Charles de Gaulle Airport and you land in Paris at 9 a.m. You take a taxi to the big hole in the ground where the Eiffel Tower used to stand. That's what my book was like. Like I would flip through there and then they'd say, okay, you can either go through this door or you can go through that door. And if you go through that door, then you need to go to page 29. And if you go through that door, you need to go to page 75. And on one page, you caught the criminal. On the other page, you like just missed them. So it was always like just a guessing game. It was a totally fun book. I read it for like 4 years. I loved it. But when that book was being written, how was that being narrated?
Second person.
In second person, as if who was doing the action? You were doing the action, okay? So in second person, you are involved, okay? So in second person, you have to be involved somehow. It's either going to be you, or it's going to be you and another person. Because sometimes in my book, I had a sidekick, okay? Maybe like you and Boris, your assistant, land in Paris. Sometimes Boris came along with me. Sometimes he didn't. Sometimes I was acting alone, okay? And then a lot of books are in the third person. Does anybody ever talk about themselves in the third person? How would that sound if you were to talk about yourself in the third person?
Emily is in Spanish class.
Emily is in Spanish class, okay? Instead of her saying, I'm in Spanish class, she says, Emily is in Spanish class. If you're talking in the third person, you're talking about somebody, okay? So the third person is about someone else. I'm going to say someone else is involved. So in a book, it might be like Adam, or I should say Javier. Javier is in Spanish class. Javier is writing down the subject pronouns. And Javier really likes Spanish class. He loves it. It's his favorite, okay? Third person is about somebody else. Am I talking about myself?
Nope.
Am I talking about you?
Nope.
Am I talking about him?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, I'm talking about somebody. So that's what first, second, and third person mean, okay? Now, this chart down here at the bottom of the page is very, very crucial, okay? And why I say it's crucial is because this chart is going to be the basis for every chart that we do whenever you learn a verb in this class, and you're going to learn a lot of verbs in this class, okay? So I would like for you guys to take a moment. We're going to talk about what this chart means, how it's set up. I'm going to explain to you the method behind the madness, why I have all these different subject pronouns in different boxes. But first of all, I'm going to go ahead and italicize those two things, you formal and y'all in Latin America, because I don't want you guys to even pretend like these are here right now. Just completely ignore them, okay? We'll talk later, probably we'll talk tomorrow about why those things are the way they are. But I just want you guys to look at this chart for a second and tell me how you think it's set up. What do you guys notice about like the left versus the right and the first, second, and third column? Or the first, second, and third row, I should say. Any observations about it? If you look at the subject pronouns up there, see?
Those are singular.
These are all singular, very good. I, you, he, she. How many people are involved? One person's involved, okay? Over here on the left, we, y'all, they.
All but one.
Plural.
It's plural, okay? So more than one person is involved, okay?
Okay.
So, this is singular. This is plural. If you want to write that in there, you can feel free to, because it might not be a bad idea to help you remember. The left side is always going to be singular, and I will not ever change this chart up on you. Ever. It's always going to be the left side singular, the right side is plural. Okay?
What happens if you do? What do we get?
What?
What do we get if you do?
We all get.
Oh, I won't. I promise you. I've been teaching for 5 years now, and I've never changed the chart.
What if you do?
You get
And I guess I could probably get fired because I would have forgotten how to do Spanish. I'm also going to include in this box, you might not want to, or you might want to write that in there. I'm also going to write in here those. I'm putting those in here because it's helpful to remember where they are. They're inanimate objects, it and those. But there's not really a word for them too much in Spanish. They don't really have a nice, just easy translation of it. It can be a lot of different words in Spanish, or it can be no words. Those also, there's not really a good translation for it. So I'm just including them in there just so you guys are aware. They're always going to be in the third box. Okay? So, I, you, he, she, we, y'all, they. Figured out that the left side's singular, the right side's plural. What else do you guys notice about the chart? I, we. You, you all. He and she, they. What's the difference between the first, second, and third column? What did we just get done talking about just a second ago? First, second, and third person. Very good. This top row is which person? First person. Who is always involved in this? And I and we. I am involved, okay? So that top row, if you want to write over there like on the side in small letters, you can write in first person, okay? Because the top row is always going to involve whom? Myself. The second row is in second person. Who's always going to be involved in that one? You are always going to be involved, okay? And then the last one here, he, she, and they. Am I involved in those? No. Are you involved in those? No, we're talking about people. We're talking about him, we're talking about her, we're talking about a group of people that neither you or I are involved in, okay? So the third row is third person, okay? Bien? Okay.